Hi, my name's Ava and I'm going to be talking to you from my room about the Hong Kong protests and the suppression of freedom and how parallels can be drawn between that and the coronavirus pandemic. Hong Kong is a battleground over which the war between freedom and censorship is being fought bitterly. It is an ongoing demonstration of how suppression of free speech is suppression of democracy, a way for those in power to stifle resistance and enforce their own truth. In December 2019, a violent saga of protests began in Hong Kong after an extradition law was proposed. For over a year, there were clashes between police and protesters. Tear gas and rubber bullets were deployed, and students even set fire to their own university entrance in an effort to keep out authorities. In the past few months, however, dissent has been systematically crushed by mainland China. A security law was passed that makes crimes of secession punishable by life imprisonment. Recently, every single pro-democracy lawyer resigned in protest after 4 of the opposition members were expelled. One of these members described this as a death knell in the battle for democracy. One participant in the protest now faces 21 months in prison for the mere crime of throwing eggs. It may come across as patronising, but middle-aged intellectuals are right to furiously tweet millennials about the importance of open debate. As they type, on the other side of the Pacific, people are being incarcerated for speaking out against the government. Although the dire situation for those in Hong Kong is one that is very different from our own, there are some important parallels to be drawn. The Beijing government capitalised on the coronavirus pandemic to quell resistance. As demonstrations petered out due to new social distancing regulations, pro-democracy figures were arrested and laws put in place that increased the capital's power over Hong Kong. The security law that was so bitterly contested in 2003 was passed amid these new restrictions, and while the rest of the world was so occupied with the COVID crisis. The right to protest, an integral part of challenging authority, has been completely undermined by the circumstances of the pandemic. There has been harsh criticism levelled at those gathering to protest under the current climate in countries that are regarded as far more democratic than China. The supposed selfishness of the protesters has dominated narrative of news coverage. This has left little opportunity to debate the cause of dissent. Another way in which rebellion in Hong Kong has been opposed is through the deployment of mass surveillance. Identity has become weaponised. Some of the most arresting footage that emerged from the demonstrations showed a sea of umbrellas hiding the faces of protesters. There was a widespread fear that facial recognition was being used to identify and punish dissenters. As a result of coronavirus, population surveillance has been extended into everyday life in disquieting ways. Digital tracking is now being used in 35 countries, with half of these using location information. It is not such a stretch to think that measures put in place now under the pretext of public health may become ingrained into daily life, even after the vaccine is administered. We have a duty as citizens to scrutinise authoritarian decisions, even if they are made by an economic superpower and even if they are made under the guise of public safety. As the poet Chris Jammy says, sometimes a people lose the right to remain silent when they are pressured to remain silent.